She used to sit at the dinner table surrounded by family, her laughter filling the room like warm light spilling through an old window. Now, she eats alone, quietly, slowly, as if each bite is a memory too tender to swallow. No one asked her to pull away. No one told her she didn't belong. But somewhere between birthdays that were forgotten, phone calls that never came, and conversations that no longer made sense, she drifted. Not in anger, not in protest, but in silence. This is how it begins for many in their 70s, not with drama, not with loud farewells, but with a slow and almost invisible retreat. They start saying no more often. No, I'm fine. No, you don't have to come. No, I don't want to bother anyone. But those no's are rarely about refusal. They're quiet shields, soft armor built over years of subtle pain, of being overlooked, misunderstood, or simply outgrown. To the outside world, it looks like independence. To them, it often feels like vanishing. And here lies the hidden reality. It's not always illness that causes distance. It's not always bitterness or age. Sometimes it's just the soul trying to breathe in a world that has become too loud, too fast, and too forgetful. They don't distance themselves to be alone. They do it to preserve what little peace they have left. But behind those closed doors are stories, entire lifetimes of love, loss, courage, and resilience, quietly folded into the corners of rooms where no one visits anymore. What we mistake as withdrawal is often wisdom choosing silence over noise, stillness over chaos. And yet, the heart still longs for meaning, for connection, for someone to notice, not just the wrinkles but the spirit behind them. There's something sacred about the way the elderly begin to vanish. Not tragically, not pathetically, but with a grace so subtle we barely notice until they're no longer at the table. So if you've ever wondered why someone you love seems to be slowly fading into the background, look again. You may find that they haven't disappeared at all. They've simply walked into a quieter room, hoping you'll be brave enough to follow. You don't see the scars when she smiles. You don't hear the echo in his laugh. But it's there, buried beneath decades of holding it all together. We often forget that aging isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's spiritual. It's carrying heartbreaks that have never been named and disappointments that never had a proper funeral. Some wounds don't bleed. They settle. They lodge themselves quietly in the chest, like old furniture in a forgotten room, dusty, heavy, and too sacred to throw away. By 70, many have outlived lovers, outlasted friendships, watched children grow distant, not out of malice, but out of busyness, distraction, or simply the way time changes everything. And with each passing season, something in them shrinks, not their spirit, but their willingness to keep reaching out only to be met with silence. It's exhausting, you see, to always be the one remembering, to always be the one who shows up, to always be the one who forgives first and asks nothing in return. There comes a point where the soul just gets tired of explaining the past, tired of adjusting to the present, tired of pretending they're okay when, in truth, they miss being seen as someone who still matters. It's not depression always. Sometimes it's just depletion, a gentle kind of sorrow that builds not from one event, but from a lifetime of almosts, nearlys, and never quite rights. Imagine loving deeply and being forgotten just as deeply. Imagine giving everything and now needing only a little but feeling ashamed to ask for it. That is what emotional fatigue feels like. It's not loud. It's not angry. It's a slow dimming, like a candle that still burns but doesn't bother to fight the wind anymore. And when you see someone in their 70s who has begun to withdraw, do not rush to fix them. Sit beside them. Listen not just to their words but to the pauses between them. Because those quiet spaces, that's where the real stories live. That's where you'll find the invisible wounds, aching not for pity but for presence. They don't want you to understand everything. They just want you to notice they're still here. They used to be the strong ones, the ones who held crying babies at 3 a.m. without complaint, who worked double shifts, juggled bills, cooked meals, and fixed broken things without ever asking for applause. They were the ones others leaned on, the safe place, the backbone. But now in their 70s, something shifts. They walk slower, forget things they once remembered without effort, need help for rides, for opening jars, for getting up from the floor. And with every new need comes a quiet question they don't dare speak aloud. Am I becoming a burden? You won't hear them say it. They'll smile and say, I'm fine. They'll tell you not to worry, that they can manage, that it's not that bad. But inside, they carry a silent dread, not of aging itself, but of the moment when their presence feels more like an obligation than a joy. Because nothing wounds the elderly more deeply than sensing they are in the way. They see your eyes glance at the clock during a visit. They notice the forced patience when you repeat yourself for the third time. They catch the exhaustion in your voice, even when you don't mean for them to hear it. And so, they shrink. They cancel plans. They stop asking for help. They start saying, don't worry about me, even when they desperately want someone to care. Not because they've stopped needing love, but because they don't want their need to be a weight you have to carry. This is what no one teaches us about growing old. That the hardest part is not the physical pain, or the memory loss, or even the loneliness. It's the unbearable ache of feeling like you're becoming too much for the people you love the most. And here's the cruel paradox. The more they need connection, the more they hide away. The more they long to be included, the more they insist on staying behind. They withdraw, not because they don't care, but because they care so much. They'd rather suffer in silence than make you uncomfortable. It's not pride. It's love, twisted by time and silence. So if someone in their 70s seems to be fading into the background, ask yourself, have they been made to feel like helping them is a chore? Have they felt like a task on someone's already full list? If yes, they won't confront you. They'll simply disappear with grace. They won't slam the door. They'll just stop knocking. Because above all, they want to be remembered not as fragile or demanding, but as someone who gave more than they ever asked for. They used to move through life like a breeze. Quick steps across the room, a confident swing of the grocery bag, laughter echoing through the hallway after midnight. Now everything is measured. How long the stairs are, how heavy the door feels, how far the walk from the car to the cafe truly is. It's not that they don't want to show up. It's that showing up takes so much more now. More planning, more courage, more pain than they care to admit. A simple outing becomes a battle plan. What shoes won't make me slip? Will the chairs have arms so I can get up? Will there be a bathroom nearby if I need it? Questions no one else in the group is thinking about. But for them, these questions are the gatekeepers to whether they join or slowly fade from social life. And when you see them say, "No, you go ahead, I'll stay home," what they're really saying is, "I'm tired of pretending this is still easy." Because energy in your 70s becomes a limited currency. You start spending it wisely. You say no more often, not out of disinterest but out of self-preservation. You choose peace over pressure, stillness over strain. And with that, the world gets smaller. First, you skip the late-night dinners, then the long drives, then the big gatherings where no one notices if you're quiet in the corner. Until one day people stop inviting you at all, not out of cruelty, but because they assume you'd rather not come. But that's not the full truth. It's not that they don't want to be part of life. It's that life now demands more than their body can comfortably give. And here's the part that hurts the most. The fading presence doesn't happen in one dramatic goodbye. It happens in whispers, in missed birthdays, in unanswered group chats, in slowly being replaced by someone with more stamina and less hesitation. People stop seeing you not because you've changed, but because you've slowed down. And the modern world has no patience for slow. But here's what they wish you knew. That behind every quiet "I'll skip it this time" is a heart still longing to be remembered, to be asked again, to be included even if they can't say yes. They don't want the world to stop spinning. They just wish it would slow down enough for them to still feel like part of it. Because presence isn't always about physically being there. Sometimes it's about knowing that even if you stay home, someone still saves you a seat in their heart. There comes a moment in life, not marked by a birthday or a headline, when you realize the world you helped build no longer recognizes you. The conversations around you sound familiar, but somehow they no longer belong to you. You hear words, fast, sharp, clever, but they land like static. Names you've never heard, trends you don't understand, opinions that race so fast you can't find a space to step in. It's not just a generation gap. It's a chasm of meaning. They talk about followers. You remember loyalty. They praise productivity. You value presence. They race for more. You've learned the art of enough. And slowly, without anyone meaning harm, you become the silent observer in the room, smiling at jokes you don't fully get, nodding at values that don't feel like home. You begin to wonder, when did life stop speaking my language? When did simplicity become outdated? When did slowing down become the same as falling behind? They don't mean to alienate you, but in a world chasing innovation, efficiency, and instant gratification, the elderly carry truths that no longer fit in the headlines. Like patience, like faith, like sitting still long enough to hear the voice inside you speak. And yet you find yourself slowly retreating, not out of resentment but exhaustion. Because every conversation feels like a negotiation between what they think matters and what you know truly does. You try to share stories, but they look at their phones. You speak from wisdom, but they want data. You offer presence, but they crave speed. So you fall quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because what you have to say no longer echoes back. And that silence, that's where the distance begins. Not just across tables, but across hearts. Because we don't drift apart through arguments. We drift apart when meaning no longer overlaps. But here's the thing, the language of the soul never changes. It's not about slang or slang-free. It's about truth. It's about connection beyond convenience. It's about being seen, not just scanned. So maybe, just maybe, what the elderly feel isn't irrelevance. It's a kind of spiritual homesickness. For a world where values weren't just spoken, they were lived. And perhaps the greatest gift we can offer them isn't just time or care, but the willingness to slow down, sit beside them and listen, not just to their words, but to their hearts, to the timeless language they still carry in their bones. Because once you learn to hear it, you realize they were never out of touch. We were just moving too fast to understand. Not all distance is sadness. Not all silence is grief. Sometimes it is awakening. There comes a season, often after 70, sometimes even before, when noise no longer feels like company, and conversation no longer equals connection. The outer world, once so vivid, so urgent, begins to soften like dusk, and in its place, a new world starts to stir. Quiet, vast, immeasurable. This is the season of inward turning. Of looking not outward for answers, but inward for understanding, not seeking applause or validation, but peace, deep, clear, soul-deep peace. They no longer chase the next chapter in the world's story. They begin listening for the one unfolding in their spirit. And here's the secret no one tells you. As the body weakens, the soul sharpens, as memory fades, wisdom deepens, as attachments fall away, truth comes gently into focus. This isn't depression. This isn't defeat. This is sacred evolution. You start to understand that time isn't something you spend. It's something you return to. Like a river meeting the sea, you begin to see beyond the surface of things. The futility of endless conflict, the illusion of control, the preciousness of every breath, every glance, every shared moment. And so you withdraw not out of bitterness, but reverence. Because the noise of the world no longer holds your attention. You're listening for something else now, a whisper beneath the noise, a presence beyond form. Call it God, call it spirit, call it the deep memory of who you truly are beneath the roles, the names, the history. You begin to forgive, not because others asked for it, but because holding on feels heavier than letting go. You begin to love more quietly, not through grand gestures, but through simple presence, a cup of tea, a hand held without needing words, a prayer spoken when no one else is in the room. This is not isolation. This is communion of the most ancient kind, and those on the outside may see this gentle retreat and think, she's slipping away. But no, she's slipping inward, closer to essence, closer to truth, closer to the eternal light that was there all along, just waiting for everything else to quiet down. And when they smile now, it's different. It's not the smile of someone trying to impress or please. It's the smile of someone who's touched something timeless and brought a piece of it back to this world. In the quiet after the storm of a lifetime, a bridge begins to form, not made of steel or stone, but something far more delicate, a golden thread woven from understanding, respect, and love. Those in their 70s who have withdrawn are not lost. They are simply waiting for the world to meet them where they are. Because the deepest truth of human connection is this: we do not have to lose ourselves to be found by others. The silence they have embraced is not emptiness. It is a sacred space, an inner sanctuary where wisdom has taken root. But even the strongest roots need sunlight. Even the quietest heart longs for a hand to hold. So how do we build this golden bridge? How do we reconnect without breaking the silence that has become their refuge? First, it begins with presence, not interruption. Showing up without rushing in to fill the silence, without trying to fix or explain. Simply being there, steady and patient, like a gentle river flowing beside a quiet shore. Second, it requires listening, the kind of listening that does not judge or correct, but honors the story as it is told, no matter how slow or fragmented, because every word spoken, and even those left unspoken, carry meaning. Third, it demands respect, recognizing that the world of a 70-year-old is different, and that difference is not a weakness, but a unique strength forged by time and experience. It's about valuing the silence as much as the speech, the pauses as much as the stories, and lastly, it invites patience, the slow unfolding of trust, the delicate dance of closeness without intrusion, the willingness to walk alongside, not ahead or behind. For in this space, connection does not mean noise or busyness. It means being together in a way that honors both presence and absence, voice and silence, movement and stillness. This golden bridge is not built overnight. It is crafted moment by moment, through small acts of kindness, through quiet conversations, through the steady heartbeat of love that refuses to give up. Because in the end, what matters most is not how loudly we speak, but how deeply we listen, not how often we appear, but how faithfully we remain. The elderly are not fading away, they are shining in a different light, a light that asks us to slow down, to open our hearts wider, and to meet them, not in the noise of the world, but in the sanctuary of silence. And when we learn to cross this golden bridge, we don't just reconnect with them, we reconnect with a deeper part of ourselves, the part that knows love is not measured in words or actions alone. It is felt in silence. It is spoken in presence. And it is lived in the sacred space where two souls meet, without needing to say a thing. Thank you for journeying through these truths with me. If you ever feel the weight of distance or the sting of silence, remember, the golden bridge is always there, waiting to be walked, one gentle step at a time.